Hello, welcome to the weekly highlights program on Azərbaycan Televiziya. I'm Gülər. We begin with a concise overview of the major developments and top stories from the past week. President İlham received chairman of the Xalq Maslahatı of Turkmenistan Gurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov. The Search Shusha Global Media Forum got underway and President İlham attended the event. On July 16, President İlham met with Gurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov, chairman of the Xalq Maslahatı of Turkmenistan. President İlham welcomed Chairman Gurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov. The Azerbaijani president and the chairman of the Xalq Maslahatı of Turkmenistan posed together for photographs. Addressing the meeting, President İlham once again welcomed Gurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov to Azerbaijan. The head of our state expressed confidence the visit would significantly contribute to the development of the fraternal relations between Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan. President İlham emphasized that Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan enjoyed successful cooperation in various fields and both pursued independent policies with a confident vision for the future. The head of our state added that the historical ties between the two countries formed the foundation of their present-day relations and expressed certainty that the visit would give new impetus to the bilateral partnership. President İlham highlighted the substantial progress made in political, economic, humanitarian, transport and energy spheres and said they would be exchanging views on further cooperation. Chairman of the Xalq Maslahatı of Turkmenistan Gurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov thanked President İlham and the Azerbaijani side for the invitation and warm hospitality. He conveyed warm greetings and best wishes of the President of Turkmenistan, Serdar Berdimuhamedov. Chairman Berdimuhamedov noted that the primary purpose of his visit was to further strengthen and expand bilateral relations, consolidate achievements and encourage the implementation of new projects and initiatives. He characterized the current level of Turkmen-Azerbaijani relations with three words: brotherhood, good neighborliness, and cooperation. Chairman Berdimuhamedov also highlighted the principled and firm foreign policy stances of both countries, which were based on the UN Charter and international legal norms, and said that Turkmenistan and Azerbaijan contributed significantly to regional and global stability, including in the Caspian region. Pointing out that the two countries successfully cooperated within international organizations, particularly the UN and regional bodies, Chairman Berdimuhamedov congratulated Azerbaijan on the successful hosting of the 17th Summit of the Economic Cooperation Organization in Khankendi. Chairman Berdimuhamedov added that trade and economic ties between the two nations were progressing with both qualitative and quantitative growth. The importance of interparliamentary cooperation and public diplomacy, he said, was increasing as key elements of interstate relations. Chairman Berdimuhamedov expressed confidence that his visit would serve as a vital step towards strengthening ties and developing coordinated approaches for long-term cooperation, and once again thanked President İlham for the warm welcome.
Teşekkür ederim. Ayşe Kremen de salamlarımı hürmetli Prezident Serdar Berdimuhamedov'a çatdırasın.
President İlham and Gurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov, chairman of the Xalq Maslahatı of Turkmenistan, visited the Sea Breeze resort located on the Caspian Sea coast.
Emin Ağalarov, founder of Seabreeze, briefed the Azerbaijani president and the chairman of the Xalq Məsləhəti of Turkmenistan on the projects completed and planned at the resort. Located just 30 minutes from Baku's city center, Seabreeze combines various real estate types and is considered a unique global project. Its main developments are along the coastline. Spanning 500 hectares, Seabreeze has completed and commissioned over 3 million square meters of residential and commercial real estate. More than 500 properties have been constructed, with over 20,000 residents currently living there. By 2028, this number is expected to exceed 50,000, with a long-term goal of accommodating 500,000 people upon full completion. Plans also include the creation of a unique crescent-shaped artificial peninsula covering 50 hectares. Over 150 hectares have been dedicated to recreational zones, parks and beaches. Essential infrastructure including a school, kindergarten and hospital ensures comfortable living and leisure for residents and visitors. Landscaping efforts have resulted in planting approximately 10 million plants and trees, expanding green areas to 300 hectares. The resort currently employs 6,560 people with plans to significantly increase staff in the future. Total investment has reached $3 billion, with over $10 billion more planned over the next 5 years.
President İlham and the Chairman of the Xalq Maslahatı of Turkmenistan Qurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov visited Füzuli and Şuşa.
A guard of honor was lined up at Füzuli International Airport in honor of Chairman Qurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov. Qurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov was welcomed by President of Azerbaijan Ilham. Füzuli International Airport, Qurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov was briefed on Füzuli, Zangilan and Laçın international airports, which were constructed in the territories liberated from the occupation. chairman Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov was briefed on the Füzuli city's master plan. Emin Hüseynov, special representative of the President of Azerbaijan in Ağdam, Füzuli and Khojavand districts, informed Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov about the destruction and acts of vandalism inflicted on the Füzuli district during the 30 years of Armenian occupation. He also provided updates on the ongoing and planned restoration efforts aligned with the master plan. Once a densely populated and thriving city, Füzuli was completely looted and left in ruins during the Armenian occupation. Following the liberation of the territories, the master plan for Füzuli city was promptly prepared, approved by President İlham Aliyev, and presented to the public in 2021. Located at the intersection of major transportation arteries of the Karabakh and East Zengezur economic region, Füzuli holds significant transport and logistic potential. The city spans approximately 1,942 hectares and, according to the master plan, is projected to accommodate 50,000 residents by 2040. As part of the reconstruction efforts, the Füzuli Memorial Complex, encompassing the Occupation and Victory Museums, will be established. The Kurbangazi Creativity Center has already been built. A city hospital is under construction. A city park will be developed, and extensive landscaping and greenery initiatives will be carried out. Social infrastructure, including kindergartens and schools, will be strategically located within 300 and 500 meters, respectively. The restoration works aim to transform Füzuli into one of the key cities in the liberated territories, rebuilt to modern standards with distinctive architecture and incorporating the smart city concept. The administrative center, covering over 12 hectares, will be divided into 3 functional sections. President of the Republic of Azerbaijan İlham Aliyev and Chairman of the Khalq Maslahati of Turkmenistan Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov posed for a photo against the backdrop of Dashalti village in Shusha district. Aydan Karimov, special representative of the President of Azerbaijan in Shusha district, provided information about the complex to the President and the Chairman of the Khalq Maslahati. Covering nearly 8 hectares, the residential complex consists of 23 buildings. Its foundation was laid by President İlham Aliyev in August 2021. The complex includes 450 apartments, 28 one-room, 195 two-room, 193 room, 34 room, and 7 5-room units. These apartments have been allocated to former internally displaced persons and also provided as service housing for individuals working in various state institutions in Shusha. To date, 376 families of former internally displaced persons totaling 1,409 individuals have been resettled in the complex. Extensive landscaping and greening efforts have also been carried out in the area. Anar Al-Akbarov, assistant to the president, briefed the president and the chairman on the progress of the construction. The foundation of the mosque was laid by President Ilham Aliyev in 2021. Once completed, the mosque will stand as a modern architectural landmark in the historic city with a design rich in symbolic meaning. In accordance with President Ilham Aliyev's instructions, the mosque's layout will resemble the number 8, symbolizing Victory Day, the day Shusha was liberated from occupation. The mosque will feature 2 minarets shaped to resemble the number 11, symbolizing the liberation of Shusha and Karabakh in the 11 months of the year. Each minaret will stand 72 meters tall, and the mosque is being built in the upper part of Shusha. The exterior will be decorated with geometric patterns inspired by those found on the minarets of Shusha's historic mosque. Currently, more than 60% of the construction has been completed, with the project expected to be finalized next year. The building, considered one of Azerbaijan's significant architectural monuments, originally served as the Caravanserai of Ağa Qəhrəman Mirziyoğlu. Restoration work launched by the Heydər Əliyev Foundation in 2022 returned the structure to its original appearance. The Creativity Center officially opened to the public on May 10, 2023. The exhibition features rare photographs, documents and video materials highlighting national leader Heydər Əliyev's contribution to the social, economic, political and cultural development of Karabakh. It also includes images from the visits to Karabakh and various meetings and events he attended. A pivotal chapter in the history of Karabakh and East Zengezur began in 1969 when, despite difficult historical circumstances, the national leader initiated comprehensive reforms across all sectors of life in the region. One of the strategic initiatives, the commissioning of the Ağdam-Xankəndi Railway in 1979, strengthened economic and infrastructural ties between Karabakh and other regions of Azerbaijan, marking a key historical achievement. Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov was informed that during the occupation, the Armenian side had planned to transport the statues to Armenia to be melted down. However, thanks to the efforts of the national leader Heydər Əliyev, the statues were recovered from Armenia, brought back to Azerbaijan, and temporarily placed in the courtyard of the Museum of Art in Baku. Following the liberation of Shisha, the statues were restored to the original locations. of the Milli Məclis Polad Bülbüloğlu informed Qurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov that the renowned musician Bülbül was born and spent his childhood in this house. Under the directive of national leader Heydər Əliyev, a decision by the Executive Committee of the Şuşa City People's Deputy Soviet in 1982 designated Bülbül's birthplace and residence as a house museum. A new bust of Bülbül has been erected in the courtyard of the house museum. The original bust, which was damaged during the occupation, has been preserved as evidence of the acts of vandalism committed. The building was renovated in 1982 and 1983. A museum exhibition was established and an administrative building was constructed in front of it. The House Museum ceased operations in 1992 during the First Karabakh War due to Armenian vandalism. Following the liberation of Şuşa, restoration efforts began on the House Museum and other historical and cultural monuments. The museum was reopened in August 2021 after the completion of restoration work. Qurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov was informed that, like in other formerly occupied territories, Şuşa historical monuments, including mosques, suffered destruction and desecration during the Armenian occupation. Of the city's 17 mosques, 16 were destroyed by the occupiers. Following the liberation of Şuşa, restoration efforts for the mosques were launched immediately under the instruction of President İlham Əliyev. The restoration of the Yuxarı Gövhərağa Mosque, a major historical and religious landmark that had been subjected to Armenian vandalism, began in late 2021 under the leadership of the Heydər Əliyev Foundation. The mosque was reopened on May 10, 2023 after extensive reconstruction and restoration work. President İlham Əliyev, First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva and their family members attended the opening ceremony. The Yuxarı Gövhərağa Mosque is listed among Azerbaijan's monuments of national, historical and cultural significance. The chairman was informed that the complex, comprising large and small residential buildings, a family mosque and a spring, was built in the 18th century by members of the Mehmandarov family. A rare example of Azerbaijan's rich architectural heritage, the estate was restored by the Heydər Əliyev Foundation. 9, 2023, President Ilham Aliyev and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva attended the inauguration of the restored Mehmandarov's Estate Complex. A museum exhibition titled The House of Karabakh Nobility was also established at the site. The exhibition recreates the interior of a Karabakh noble's home and reflects the lifestyle of an intellectual from the late 19th to early 20th century. More than 150 antique items were used in curating the exhibition. Restoration efforts, including work on the family mosque and spring, began in October 2021. The spring's roof was reconstructed in its original form and was officially commissioned during President Ilham Aliyev's visit in September 2022 to inspect the restoration process. The presentation of Karabakh horses took place at the site. President İlham Əliyev presented a Karabakh horse named Dostluq as a gift to Qurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov. President İlham Əliyev and Chairman of the Xalq Məsləhəti of Turkmenistan, Qurbanqulu Berdimuhamedov, had a joint dinner in Shusha. The dinner marked the conclusion of the Chairman of the Xalq Məsləhəti's visit to Azerbaijan.
On July 18, President İlham Əliyev visited Ağdam and Xocalı districts.
President İlham Əliyev attended the inauguration of a tobacco products manufacturing facility owned by Tabatera LLC in the Ağdam Industrial Park. Minister of Economy Mikhail Jabbarov first briefed the head of state on the Ağdam Industrial Park. The Ağdam Industrial Park, covering 190 hectares, was established under President İlham Əliyev's decree dated May 28, 2021. Managed by the Agency for the Development of Economic Zones, the park supports industrial growth, entrepreneurship and job creation in the liberated territories. Priority sectors include construction materials, food processing, packaging, fertilizer and feed production and service infrastructure. Ağdam Industrial Park ranks second in Azerbaijan by number of resident companies after Sumgayit. To date, 30 businesses have resident status and 4 are non-residents, with total investments exceeding 270 million minutes. Over 121 million minutes has already been invested, creating more than 650 permanent jobs, primarily for residents of Ağdam and neighboring districts. More than 70% of the park's territory has been allocated to entrepreneurs. With the launch of the Tabatera LLC facility, the number of operational enterprises in the park has reached 10. Ilham Javanshir, director of Tabatera LLC, also informed the president about the company's facility built on 5.5 hectares with a total investment of 58 million minutes. Tabatera produces over 120 tobacco products, including licensed brands from British American Tobacco, Japan Tobacco International, and Imperial brands. Products are exported to the United Arab Emirates, Georgia, Uzbekistan, and Iraq. The company operates 9 production lines with advanced European technology and employs 400 people. To support workforce relocation, Tabatera has purchased 208 apartments in the Ağdam residence complex, providing them free of charge to employees during their period of employment. It was recognized in 2023 as one of the top non-oil exporters and taxpayers in Azerbaijan. To strengthen the tobacco value chain, the Tabatera Leaf LLC was established in 2021 and invested 15 million minutes in modernizing infrastructure after acquiring AzTV Open Joint Stock Company. The company operates in Sheki, Garza, Gatala, and Balakan and plans to cultivate 500 hectares in Gubadli from 2027. Total investments by Tabatera LLC amount to 79 million minutes, significantly contributing to the economic development of the liberated territories. President İlham Əliyev attended the inauguration of Ağdam City Secondary School No. 1, designed to accommodate 960 students. Minister of Science and Education Emin Amrullayev briefed the president on the facilities established at the school. The foundation of the school was led by President İlham Əliyev on May 28, 2021. In February of this year, the president and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva reviewed the construction progress. Constructed as part of the First State program on the great return to the liberated territories of the Republic of Azerbaijan, the school building comprises 43 classrooms, 16 administrative offices, and a STEAM center with 7 rooms. It also features modern physics, chemistry, and biology laboratories, an informatics room, a pre-military training room, a library, museum, a 352-seat canteen, 468-seat assembly hall, 2 indoor sports hall, as well as football pitch and basketball court for teachers and students. President İlham Əliyev attended the opening ceremony of Nursery Kindergarten No. 1 with a capacity of 160 seats in the city of Ağdam. The construction of the nursery kindergarten was carried out under the framework of the First State program on the great return to the liberated territories of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Construction began in February of the previous year. In February of this year, President İlham Əliyev and First Lady Mehriban Aliyeva reviewed the progress of the construction. The preschool facility is fully equipped to ensure children's comfort and to support high-quality education and upbringing. The building includes playrooms, bedrooms, as well as music, dance, and sports halls. President İlham Əliyev attended the opening ceremony of the restored historic mosque building in the village of Gyaslı, Ağdam district. Anar Ələkbərov, assistant to the president, briefed the head of state on the restoration progress of the Gyaslı mosque. On May 28, 2021, President İlham Əliyev visited the mosque during his trip to Ağdam. The mosque, a historical and religious monument in Karabakh, suffered severe damage during the Armenian occupation, including the destruction of its roof and domes after being used as a cattle shed. Restoration began in 2022, led by the Heydar Ali Foundation, using archival materials to preserve its original appearance. Minarets were reconstructed based on a preserved spiral staircase, stone columns and arches restored, and damaged plaster repaired. The mihrab was also restored, facade stones cleaned, and joints cleared. Auxiliary buildings were added around the mosque. Since 2001, the Gyaslı Mosque has been listed as a locally significant and movable historical and cultural monument by Azerbaijan's Cabinet of Ministers. President İlham Əliyev inspected the ongoing restoration of individual houses and infrastructure in Təzəbinə village, Xocalı district. Elçin Yusupov, special representative of the president in the state of Xankəndi and Ağdərə and Xocalı districts, briefed the president on completed and planned works. The head of state first visited the home of Məhəmməd Fərəcov, a resident who has relocated to the village.
Hörmətli prezident, çox xoş gəlmisiniz. Sabah gətirsiniz.
Təzəbinə village, part of Xocalı district's administrative territory, was occupied by Armenian armed forces in 1992 and was liberated in September 2023 through anti-terrorist operations conducted by the Azerbaijani army. By the end of 2025, 197 houses are expected to be completed, with 159 more in 2026. On July 14, 2025, 28 families returned to the village. President İlham Əliyev attended the inauguration of the Xocalı brick factory. The production facility was built in the village of Daşbulaq, located in the Xocalı district. The project, with an investment value of 8.5 million, has created permanent employment for 60 people, the majority of whom are residents of the territories liberated from occupation. The number of jobs at the plant is expected to increase to 120 in the future. Has an annual production capacity of 16.2 million bricks. It utilizes modern German and Turkish technologies with a focus on energy efficiency and environmental protection. The main raw material source for the plant is the Xocalı clay deposit located near the city of Xocalı. The facility occupies nearly 1 hectare, with an additional 6.5 hectares allocated for raw material storage. President İlham Əliyev visited Xanyurdu village in the Xocalı district. During the visit, the head of our state toured the homes of resettled residents Rasim Javadov and Kərəm Abbasov. Xanyurdu village, part of the Balıca village administrative territory in the Xocalı district, has seen 40 individual houses fully restored. An additional 65 homes are slated for restoration by the end of this year, with 93 more planned for repair and restoration in 2026. On July 14 of this year, 33 families totaling 122 people returned to the native Xanyurdu village.
The Sonshusha Global Media Forum under the theme Digital Pathways Strengthening Information and Media Resilience in the Age of AI commenced in Xankəndi. President İlham attended the event. That was all for this week. Thank you for watching us and see you next Sunday.